Partnered by Times Influence.
Today we are on the threshold of a digital transformation, creating a digitally empowered society and a knowledge economy. Digitization has put India on a fast growth trajectory, with intelligent cities, smart technologies and innovations that will push our boundaries. To address the challenges and opportunities that centers around the Digital India vision, with an intrinsic objective to explore digitization through an all-cloud network, Huawei, in association with the Times Network, hosted the India Broadway Forum 2017, a platform that brought together industry stakeholders and government representatives to delve into all aspects of cloud computing strategies.
Digital transformation is a global phenomenon, right? But where does India fit in? Are we leading the charge, or are we simply playing catch-up? To shed more light on the subject, can I please invite the CEO of Huawei India, Jay Chen.
We are entering the intelligent world where everything is connected. The value of the connectivity is being unleashed, and the digital economy is booming. By the year 2025, we expect the digital economy to grow further to the 20.3% of the global GDP. And currently, the India contributes 2% to the global digital economy. And with the focus of Modi government, the efforts to make India $1 trillion digital economy, India ought to become the digital leader. And we believe it will. The powerful trends of the digital transformation is sweeping across the world. This new digital era will reshape the global economic structure and the business landscape, affecting all the enterprise and the industry. We hope Huawei Broadway Forum 2017 will set the tone for the digitalization journey ahead. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister, it's such a pleasure to have you here. And one of the pinnacles of the conversation is the impact of digital transformation on the common man. If you could please address the audience.
A very good evening to all of you. The world is digitally transforming at a rapid pace. Around us, we are experiencing digital transformation in our lives as we embrace a digital way of life. Today, the digital medium is as powerful a medium as print, radio, or television, if not more. The government, under the dynamic leadership of Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, has embarked on this journey with large transformational programs like Digital India, Make in India, Skill India, Startup India. These are all designed to transform India as a country and increase our share of the global economy. Digital transformation also applies to our government's core philosophy that the last man in the queue should get equal benefit as those in the front. The poorest of the poor and even the underserved communities. Digital transformation through Digital India, BharatNet, Aadhaar, and other programs will ensure that we successfully bridge the digital divide and bring the poor, the marginalized, and the underprivileged into the mainstream. I am happy to see Huawei, a global ICT player, has taken this initiative to discuss the importance of a digitally empowering society and technology, which can be a real enabler in achieving this vision.
Real challenges and opportunities that telco operators face as they consider overhauling their infrastructure to an all-cloud network. May I please invite on stage the Managing Director of Idea Cellular, Himanshu Kapania.
My personal belief that the strong impetus to this economic growth comes from Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's vision of digital India. Old method is what I call hardware upgrade method, and have to move from telecom-oriented mechanism of equipment installation to an IT-oriented mechanism of equipment installation. What is IT-oriented mechanism of equipment installation? Number one, you move to softwareization, which becomes the norm. Technology cycle is lower, depreciation rates are assumed to be lower. And we believe cloud and virtualization are the means that will help us to be able to move towards this new. I'm extremely happy that this forum has been made, because we believe what we are discussing in terms of benefits of cloud and virtualization can transform networks and get it ready for tomorrow. Virtualization and cloud will promote implementation of network on software across all network functions, but on COTS. That means commercially off-the-shelf hardware. So we don't have to worry about space, physical infrastructure at all as we move into this. Going forward, it is not only about virtualization, it is about telco cloud. And when we move to a telco cloud environment, we will be ready for tomorrow's technology. With so much immense benefits that's available on virtualization and cloud, leading telecom operators have started to adopt it. And for us, the critical stakeholders is the Department of Telecommunication, Ministry of Telecommunication, and TRAI. They've been doing a commendable set of recommendations and forward-looking set of recommendations, which has come out of TRAI, and I would like to mention it here. It is critical for us to be able to take this broader forum forward. Number one, the current set of recommendations that has come in, both on net neutrality, the ease of doing business, and the third is spectrum cap. All the three are extremely important for what we are discussing today. Because A, ease of doing business is going to bring you the cost of ROW down and the speed of execution down. B, net neutrality to us will allow a whole host of youngsters and startups to continue to be able to fiercely develop application without having to worry about what will happen to speed of execution. The telecom sector is committed to ensure that the digital India vision is there. We will offer you robust, large-scale digital India, which is capable to support 1 billion people who has need to 5 to 10 GB into future and great experience.
Thank you, sir, for adding that very unique dimension to this conversation around digitization. So building on that, I'd like to now invite to the dais a very special guest, the Secretary of the Department of Telecommunications, Government of India, Srimati Aruna Sundararajan.
At the outset, I must congratulate both Huawei and the Times Network for picking up this very important theme. I think it's very timely that we are having this interaction today, because we have reached a stage where the cloud, the kind of progress that we make on the cloud and the manner in which India harnesses the cloud, this is going to become a critical determinant of how well we are able to leverage digital India. I think the Indian government has been very proactive. The Meghraj project, so that various e-governance services could move into the cloud, was initiated. We have the Aadhaar, which is really offering platform as a service, one of the largest of its kind. And now we are increasingly coming up. The Indian government is working on creating more such platforms, whether it is on the digital payment side or whether it is on the education side, so that we have the computing and the content available so that people can access it on demand. So I think we have been fortunate in that we've got an extremely progressive and forward-looking roadmap on the cloud. I think we will indeed have a very, very robust regime that will look both at the telecom side of the technology access, as well as the data that will be available for people to harness and build, whether it is services, whether it is AI, whether it is data analytics. All of this is going to ride on the data policies that India will come up with. Thank you.
Now, for policy to be effective, it really calls for a conducive regulatory environment that enables not just vanilla digitization, but ultimately value-add digitization. So to share his thoughts on the subject, please join me in welcoming to the stage the chairman of the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, Areshan.
In India, it's a very unique place where you have 1.2 billion telecom subscribers. Now India is actually, the Indian networks are transporting 1.5 exabytes of data, 300 petabytes of data. It's really, the scale is unprecedented. And once you have this entire cloud also as a part of this infrastructure, which will be very cost effective, which will be easing out the business innovations, that is going to transform again. There will be another wave of transformation. We have done 8.4 billion Aadhaar authentication in 1 year. What it means in terms of reducing the cost, ultimately, why are we talking of cloud? We are talking of the cloud because that will do unbundling and that will basically bring in cost efficiencies. Decision making and policy making should be data driven. It should not be based on, anecdotes and stuff like that. And this is the right way to go, where we have huge amount of data, and then we should use all the tools of crowdsourcing, cloud computing, data analytics, to make these policies and fine-tune these policies. So I can only assure you at this part that from our side in the TRAI, we will continue to ensure that the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of the Digital India, where every component is described and where the whole purpose is to develop India into a digitally empowered society and a knowledge economy, that vision is certainly not compromised at any stage, and we'll continue to provide our recommendation from our side. Thank you very much.
On the other side, we get you an invigorating discussion with the bigwigs from the government and the industry. Stay tuned. Huawei India Broadway Forum, in association with Times Now, brought together both the government representatives and industry veterans on one platform. ET Now's Supriya Srinath moderated an invigorating fireside chat on the future of cloud computing, adoption of cloud across industries amidst this digital transformation.
Policy making in subjects that don't have a lot of global examples, whether it's 5G, whether it's cloud. And in a country like India, where you're still dealing with 2G, where you're still dealing with voice and also talking about cloud computing, in a subject like that, policy making, I'm presuming, is a very complex exercise that people like you excel at doing.
No, as far as this government is concerned, I think technology is the key enabler for this government. And our policy is very proactive to promote all the new technologies.
Mr. Sharma, you spoke about something that was important. You said regulatory framework is an important catalyst, which is very true. And like Ms. Surajan said here, it has to be nimble-footed. It has to be a light feather touch policy, because you've got to be prepared to change because this is new. What will make us an attractive destination, not just for ourselves, but for the global cloud computing to come to India?
Policy framework has to be nimble. Policy framework has got to be attractive so as to attract the players. I think another important aspect I'll just like to add to what she said was that typically we are prompted to do a lot of hard coding into the policy. And once you do a hard coding, the policy becomes very soon obsolete, because if you do a hard coding, if you say 5G, 3G or whatever, then tomorrow it becomes something else and then it'll not work. Therefore, what is important is that our policy should also, like interoperability, our policy should also be very, very broad. And that, I think, is extremely important. And secondly, India is not now just following and copying and pasting somebody else's policy. India, as the Honorable Minister said, is actually architecting its own policies. And we have to be very careful that we have to have the policy inclusive, technology neutral typically, and also, in a way, forward-looking.
Well, in a lot of ways, we are setting examples with net neutrality. The world is going one way, and we've decided that for our market and our economy, this is what we need to do. Mr. Kapania, what are the challenges that you see in adoption of cloud?
We are here discussing, and in my speech, we talked about the power of network cloud. I want to distinguish between cloud as a service for masses and a cloud as a service for telecom operators. Cloud as a service for telecom operators is a necessity as we move from the old era where we were one technology or two technology dependent to a heterogeneity of the market, which has been clearly talked about by the Secretary as well as by the Chairman, where I need to service bottom-up pyramid 400 million people who still don't have mobile services and give them 2G or 3G which they want, as well I have to service tomorrow's need of 5G. Now, in that environment, in a network cloud, I cannot operate in an old environment which I call the hardware grade mechanism, where I will keep buying proprietary hardware, proprietary software, and crowding it and continue to have high OPEX and CAPEX, which will finally be passed to consumers. If we have to prevent that situation, I need to be able to move to cloud. I need to decouple hardware from software. That is why we're talking about software as a service. So every functional network, whether it is core, whether it is backbone, whether it is radio, everything will be virtualized. RAN will be virtualized, core will be virtualized. In that environment, we have to, what from a policy framework is required. Sharma also talked about, and Minister talked about, one of the advantage of a network cloud versus a universal cloud is that both security as well as data remains within the control of network operator, and he will be accountable for it. And he will be accountable as much in the license framework he is accountable today. So the accountability doesn't go away because I've changed the mode of execution of equipment. Okay. However, so I want to distinguish.
That's right.
I'm talking on behalf of network operators. So from that perspective, what we need at this point of time is to be able to decide if we are to move to this new environment. New accounting policy needs to be carried out because currently company law board have moved to treating network equipment as machinery, where we have a 9 years to 12 years or 15 years.
And that's the mindset change that's perhaps required. Yeah, Jay, you're in the business of this mindset change that will be brought about. You want to add to the point that Mr. Kapania made?
The first, talk about the technology, which is not a big issue in this market.
Right.
In India, when we moved the 4G and the 4.5G and the 5G, technology really is not an issue. India already run faster and faster. 4G, well, okay. And the 5G, we believe from the Huawei, Indian market will be in line with the global. That's our focus. In this market, 5G, where exactly we are landed in India, 2020, and global, 2019, beginning. All the policy industry need also come gradually. Spectrum, more and more supply. The policy on the spectrum trading available.
And especially perhaps with fewer players, you also are going to see more supply. Yeah. I do want to shift focus to safety and security of data, sir. And I think Mr. Sharma in his address here said that it's all very good to talk about this, but data security and data privacy will have to be primary. How do you gear up in a world where data, and Mr. Minister, if I may ask you, it's not just the ownership of data that's on the cloud. It's also the safety, security, and there is always such a raging debate on whether the data that's out there is secure or not. What sort of a role can the government play in perhaps extinguishing those concerns, extinguishes those fears that your data on the cloud is secure and safe? Sir.
See, it's important that we, data security is one part, but network security, which the Honorable Minister spoke about, is also extremely important, because in a world where it's all interconnected and, everything is flowing, one can put a policeman in front of this room to say that nobody goes out, but that policeman will not be able to do anything if the bits and bytes just flow. They will flow under his feet. So therefore, it is very important that we have very strict security protocols in place. Also, I think we need to very clearly articulate the rules relating to data ownership. Because please also remember that currently the whole area who owns the data is absolutely fuzzy. Suppose I walk into the shop and I do some purchase and there's a CCTV or there's some camera which is looking at my movements. Whether that shop owner owns that data, or whether I own the data, whether the government owns the data. I mean, there's a huge amount of ambiguity in that. And that, I think, is one issue which needs to be addressed very specifically. Secondly, I think what is also important is that for everybody to be kind of safe, and, for example, digital transactions. Now, digital transactions are, going in India at leaps and bounds. Numbers are increasing. And why that is important? That is important because I must have convenience, I must have confidence, I must minimize the cost, and therefore confidence is very important. And for confidence to happen, one will have to clearly lay down the principles very unambiguously as to what are the security protocols which should be put in place. And I think the government of India is absolutely alive to that situation, and you must have seen a lot of pronouncement to that effect.
So in a lot of ways, the policy perhaps has to be nimble-footed, light touch, but the security provisions have to be absolutely in black and white and no ambiguity. Have I got it right? And is that the only way going forward?
No, you're absolutely right. Because whether it is data privacy or data security, those are core principles, no matter what kind of technology we use, what kind of platforms we use. At the core, how much of an individual's data do you collect, why do you collect, when do you collect, how will you keep it safe? Similarly, how will you transmit it safely? All these, I think, are the core principles around which we are trying to frame the Government of India's policies.
Thank you very much, each one of you, for being with us.
The event concluded with the unveiling of an industry report meticulously created by KPMG titled Digital Transformation Through an All-Cloud Network, which laid down the roadmap for the industry. In the next episode of India Broadway Forum 2017, catch the biggest names from the industry as they discuss challenges in implementing cloud computing, changing traditional mindsets, and the security of data in the digital era.
Partnered by Times Influence.